So I'm
Here we go. Hi everybody, welcome. How you doing? Yes, I'm still in the beach known as Laguna, which of course, for those of you that don't know, is Spanish for Gilligan's Island. That is an absolute fact. I checked I thought it was the actually Spanish word for bean, but apparently not. I also thought for a moment that perhaps in the world of linguistic possibilities that it meant lagoon. But since this is a flat beach that goes on for miles and miles and miles, calling it Laguna because it's a lagoon would be crazy and geographically incorrect. And I'm certain no one would ever do that just to sell real estate. You can hear the waves crashing behind me. While the images you see are fake, the sound of the waves is real. Let them wash over you and relax you as we deal with the madness, the silliness, the cacophony of crapola that we deal with every day. This is HAL Sparks Mega Worldwide, and I couldn't be happier to be here with you this close to saltwater. Honestly, I've never felt more than San Francisco in my life. It's a Alien Nation reference, if anyone dares to get it. Hi, everybody in the chat room. When I'm looking over here, I'm looking at the chat room, just so you know. That's you. Just so you know. That's me looking at you. I know this. You think this is me looking at you. This is me looking at the camera. This is me looking at you. Hi. Everyone says thank you to Summer for letting them rent me for a little while, which she appreciates. It also gives her time to go to the pool without me, which I think is her third favorite pastime, pretty sure at this point. Hi everybody. Hi, hello, hi. The waves make you want to fall asleep. Oh, don't worry. I've got some clips for you today, if we're able to play them at all, that I think will, let's just say, keep you awake for days. You know, we've been dealing with the rusty trombone for a while now, Russell Brand. And part of the issue with Russell is not what he says, because that's pretty common among awful people. It's just the reach that he has. At approaching 5.6 million followers, he's basically dwarfing the Daily Wire. He's definitely getting more traffic than Jimmy Dore or TYT, and therefore what he says is a problem just on that reach. Now, let's be honest. Do I really think there's 5.6 million real people there? No, I don't. That said, it's true. Someone's yelling on the beach. It's what he says is sort of indicative of what some other folks say. For example, this little chestnut. You remember this guy? The Mess D'Souza? You guys remember The Mess, don't you? The Mess and us, we all go way back. And sometimes, if The Mess can't be racist and bigoted and grotesque enough on his own, he has to bring his wife on. Well, apparently, she's only good at being racist and bigoted about people from South America, where apparently her family is from, but she's not one of those kind. So The Mess couldn't bring on Deborah today. He brought on another woman. That's right. It's true. Demes is cheating on his wife again, but this time only in the infotainment wars arena. This is a woman named by the name of Rebekah Koffler. She explains why the Biden administration and the West share some blame for the Ukraine crisis. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this might be another person giving us the old but NATO. Right? Will unmute. What is this? Why is this? Will unmute. What is this? I don't know what this is. Oh, I see. Hold on. This fella. Did I do this? Oh, I see. I've got to go back to live mode. There we go. So The Mess has Rebekah coming on, and she's got a tale or two to tell us, no doubt. But I'm curious, like you are, like we all are, that maybe there's something we don't know about this. Maybe we read too much into the 1997 agreement between NATO and Russia that says that both sides will respect the sovereignty of every country, and that every country, as they stand at that time, which included Ukraine and Latvia and Lithuania and Poland and Moldova and Kazakhstan and Armenia and all these other countries, Finland and Sweden and everybody, can decide their own defensive strategies. It's up to them. If they want to join NATO, cool. If they don't want to join NATO, cool. Maybe I read too much into that document that both signed. Maybe an alleged phone call in 1990 before the USSR fell has more validity than an agreement that Russia signed after it existed in its current form for 7 years. All right, but I'm sure we don't know. You don't know. I don't know. Maybe we know. Who knows? Let's find out. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Mess D'Souza and his guest, who will explain to you why it is your fault that Vladimir Putin is murdering citizens by under the guise of denazifying.
With Rebekah Koffler, Russian-born U.S. intelligence expert, author.
Russian-born U.S. intelligence expert. There's a lot in there, and yet it says nothing. Very KGB.
Of the book, Putins Playbook. Rebekah, you were talking in the last...
Russia's secret plan to defeat America was the subtitle. She's got a Zelensky poster. She's got a copy of her book. So let it be known that she digs Ukrainian presidents in helmets. But it's our fault.
Segment about an irony, which is that you've got all these U.S. intelligence experts, and they seem to be participating in a scheme in America to contract and repress liberty, certainly to oppose truth from coming out. Sometimes they deploy their power to go after political opponents.
No. I don't know if you know, Demes. Trump lost. Just saying. I don't know who you're referring to, but certainly just Trump lost. That's happened in the past. We've had good presidents and bad presidents. Right now we have a good one. So, not too worried about it currently.
They're deploying these kind of socialist tactics in America.
Sort of socialist tactics. I think that's using coupons, clipping coupons. That's a sort of socialist tactic. It's sort of socialist savings.
And that are undermining, as you say, democracy. And at the same time, their rhetoric is consistently one of promoting democracy abroad. In fact, this is their whole justification for trying to mobilize a global campaign on...
I'm just saying... Oh, my hair's a little spiky in the front here. The green screen's not the best today. The lighting's a little off. I understand that. But it's better than whatever that's happening. What's this happening? I'm beginning to think that she's using a dentist x-ray as a light.
Half of Ukraine, we got to protect democracy against authoritarianism. What do you think is the actual agenda of these guys? Normally, when I find that people are acting in a double standard, there's some single standard hiding behind the double standard.
Yes, that's what it is. The old single standard, double standard shell game. Underneath the double standard is a single standard that is... What? Do you ever... this is like announcing you're the cleverest person in the world before you fall down a flight of stairs. What? Behind the double standard is actually a single standard. It's all a myth.
So what's the single standard? What's the agenda of these guys in promoting, let's call it authoritarianism at home, freedom abroad?
Just call it that. It's not what it is. But for the sake of backing up my idiotic argument, let's call it that.
I'm actually just as stunned as you, Dinesh. It is.
I was not, when I heard Russian born and American intelligence expert, that is not the voice I was expecting, Dash. That was not what I was. I honestly, this went from 0 to Karen in like 2 seconds. Yes. Roseanne's stunt double has entered the room. What? Honestly, I mean, obviously you can be born in another country, grow up here and have no accent, but I feel let down. I really do. I honestly, Dinesh, I had no idea what's going on. Like, I saw what was happening and I was like, what's happening?
A mystery to me what these people are up to, because it is really not only ironic, but it is scary that they are talking about promoting democracy in every nook and cranny of the world, even willing to go to war over it, sacrifice thousands of lives of American servicemen and women.
Well, we're not talking about World War II, asshole. We're not sending troops there. What are you talking about? We're supporting Ukraine with weapons. We're giving them intelligence, air support in terms of like satellite imagery, spy planes, and that kind of stuff. We don't have troops on the ground. What the fuck are you talking about?
Real patriots. You know, these are the people in the Washington establishment who make decisions that affect people's lives. And yet they're willing to suppress democracy here. I do not know.
Yeah, again, Trump lost. I don't know what to tell you. He was trying to suppress democracy. I mean, obviously, if you have some complaints about the state legislatures that are trying to eliminate the right to vote for a lot of people, I'm right there with you, sister.
I'm at a loss, Dinesh. All I
That's true.
know is that this needs to stop, and we need to.
What does? What needs to stop? What part of it? Which of the 3 standards in the doubles, triple standard, in the Spock-like chess stacking of standards that we have? What?
Expose these people. These 50 people need to really lose their security clearances right now. And anyone who suppressed alternative analytic view, whether it's COVID, whether it's the Russian interference in 2016 election, they need to be fired right now.
Sorry, if they suppress something to do with COVID?
Security clearances right now.
Yes. Which 50?
That this needs to stop, and we need to expose these people. These 50 people need to.
These 50 people. Oh, she's got a number now. Well, I'm glad. So there's one per state. Okay, so state legislatures. Apparently, you have one anti-democratic person in your state. It's up to you to weed them out. I'm talking to you, Idaho.
Really lose their security clearances right now, and anyone who suppressed alternative analytic view, whether it's COVID, whether it's the Russian interference in 2016 election.
Yeah, nobody did that. Nobody in the government did that. Media companies don't have to show every possible version of a story. They can exclude things based on their own research. They have no obligation legally to post stories that are contradictory to the truth or their own reporting. What kind of commie bullshit are you suggesting here?
They need to be fired right now.
Rebekah, where do you think?
Well, a lot of them were in the last election. I just want you to know that. So, especially the one running all of it. He was.
This Ukraine war is going, and I mean, I'm assuming you agree with me that some of this attempt to cancel Russia.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to stop Russia from being able to give concerts at state fairs like Ted Nugent. Yes, like fucking canceled. Cancel Russia. That's what we're doing. We've got a nuke with the word cancel written on it. Is that what you're suggesting? Good Lord.
No, in other words, block Russian banking from going on and make sure that the Russian singer at the Met is not allowed to perform or all this.
Well, no, she's allowed to perform, just not at the Met. The Met has no obligation to promote Russian anything right now. I don't know if you know that, but there's a lot of cultures out there. Not all of them get their shot at the Met, Demes.
Kind of stuff. I'm assuming that Putin's not going to be particularly fazed by any of this.
Yeah, he is. He's, well, I mean, you would know, Dinesh. You're the dude who has his red phone number in the bunker.
Now, he might be a little more phased. We talked about this last time by the campaign against the Russian oligarchs. That might actually hit a little bit closer to home.
Yeah, not the banks, though. If you go after his friends, it's a big deal. But if you literally, like, put the Russian central bank on a catapult and fire it into the sun, I'm sure it wouldn't bother him at all.
But do you think that his goal is to level Ukraine and take it over? Or do you think he wants
Yes.
to bring the Ukrainian government into a position of abject submission to Russia, in which Ukraine would remain quasi-independent, but nevertheless
Quasi-independent. If it was brought to heel under Putin, that's by Dinesh's standard, quasi-independent. Not to be confused with quasar-independent, which of course is a dwarf star that is, I guess, under the control of Vladimir Putin, which is a frightening notion.
will do Russia's bidding going forward.
Yes, you know, will do Russia's bidding going forward, aka quasi-independent. Quasi, some would say.
So remember how this war started. Dinesh, Putin stated several times that Ukraine's potential membership in NATO was a red line.
Right. And then, damn it, wouldn't you know it, Ukraine started filling out the paperwork to join NATO. I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry, I'm getting something from... Oh, they didn't do that. That didn't actually happen. And sorry, they requested to be made member of a member state of NATO within the next few... I'm sorry, what? They didn't do that either. I see. And so, well, I guess it was because of how recently talk of them joining NATO had... I'm sorry, what? 2008. I see. So the idea is, I'm guessing, according to this young lady, is that Vladimir Putin, the falsely elected dictator of a gangster kleptocracy, believes that he has the right to dictate the security moves, concerns, and defensive alliances of 29 countries. I guess technically, let's give him 18 of them, because those are the ones that are close enough for him allegedly to worry about, although the rest can hit him with a missile from farther away. It's stupid. But he gets to dictate the security concerns and responses of a bunch of other countries that together all have more people in their countries than Russia does. So you get to kick someone's ass for the potential that they might form a friendship that will protect them from you kicking their ass in the future. That's the predicate you need now.
The reason it is a red line for Putin is because NATO is a military alliance, which specifically was created to counter the Soviet.
Right, the Soviet Union, right. As a matter of fact, they signed it after the fall of the Soviet Union. NATO started working with Russia with the idea that they would join NATO eventually, and it would be a treaty alliance against Middle Eastern extremism, terrorism, perhaps the rise of China as a military state, which is a concern. But apparently Russia was just like, nah, we're cool being a mob.
Union. And so the distance right now between...
is nothing. Latvia and Lithuania are part of NATO. They're right up on the fucking border. By the way, they're next. There is no way that his justification for Ukraine gets to happen and then he doesn't go into Latvia and Lithuania. Are you out of your fucking mind?
NATO forces and St. Petersburg which is the second largest city in Russia, has reduced from the Cold War to today from 1,000 miles to 100 miles. Okay, Putin wants to enforce his version of the Monroe Doctrine.
Tough.
He believes that is part of his vital interests.
Yes, and Hannibal Lecter thinks that it's okay to eat a census worker because they're annoying you. I give a fuck.
You know, the strategic...
Ted Bundy thought he deserved 9 pieces of ass in an afternoon. This is how we're gonna live? This is the standard? Bank robbers believe they have the right to rob a bank and get home unmolested no matter how many people they kill in the bank. It's just their belief system.
Security perimeter. It is true that Russia has relied on that strategic buffer zone for centuries.
So what? I don't want to hear anything about security concerns in life before World War II, when these established, or even 91, when these other countries' boundaries were established, and they were like, yeah, we're cool with that. That's how it's going to be now. Why is it that NATO being on Russia's doorstep is a no-go, but Russia being on NATO's doorstep is fine? Why is it that he gets to seize land, moving him closer to them, especially when it entails wiping out a people to do it?
Wars, and most wars have come from the West, right? So that's a pure...
Whoa. You what now?
It is true that Russia has relied on that strategic buffer zone for centuries for wars, and most wars have come from the West, right? So that's a pure...
Oh, from the Western territories, I guess. Yeah, if you just... If you rule out their war with China, or their current issues with Japan and the Thule Islands, yeah.
Military calculation. So right now...
It's also the part that's connected to the other land. It's surprising that it doesn't come from the Arctic.
Now, even though tactically the Russians have performed horribly.
Yeah, tactically. I mean, strategically, intellectually, philosophically, morally, psychosexually, and spiritually, also massive fails, honestly.
Miserably, it's embarrassing.
Why would it be embarrassing? What a weird thing to say. Whose side are you on? What do you mean it's embarrassing? That's really weird. Why would you bring that up? Why is it say that again, kiddo?
Calculation. What? So right now, even though tactically the Russians have performed horribly, miserably, it's embarrassing. So Putin's strategic plan has not survived contact with the adversary. He has achieved...
Oh, the adversary. Oh, I see. I thought NATO was the adversary. See, in your whole lead up, I was thinking, why would you be embarrassed by the failures of a madman? And then I went like, oh, you're on his side in this. And then you went the adversary, which is just Ukrainians, both soldiers and citizens. This is just all mask off? Is that what this whole thing is?
And is achieving his strategic goal, which is to prevent Ukraine from becoming part of NATO.
Yeah, he's guaranteeing it now. Also, fuck the whole Donbass and Crimea nonsense. They're getting pushed out too. There's no end in this where they're like, yeah, keep Crimea, go back to where we were. We let it sit, we're fine. Nah, not at this rate. Everybody out.
Why? It's because so long as Ukraine remains in active conflict, and so long as there's no territorial integrity and sovereignty, it can become part of NATO. Okay?
Yes, right. So his strategy is just to fuck up another country so that they can't join an alliance? Just keep killing Ukrainians, keep bombing their country just so they can't form an alliance with other countries as a sovereign country, which they have the right to do, which Russia and NATO agreed to in 1997.
Second, the several Ukrainian cities have just been obliterated. Foreign investment is not flowing in Ukraine. Ukraine has been
Oh, by the way, foreign investment is flowing into Ukraine in the form of Stinger missiles and javelins and drones and machine guns and ammunition. And you bet your ass when this is done, the entire world is going to help Ukraine rebuild. Fuck off, you murderous goon.
destroyed both physically and economically. And that just suits fine for Putin. And so this is...
Oh, so that part's not embarrassing. That meaning that they can't currently do infrastructure while he's blowing it up. That part's not embarrassing. Thanks.
Very, very long game. It's not going to end anytime soon, not in a month, not in 2 months. He's in it for a very, very long haul.
Also, okay, so that's her statement so far. Besides the fact that she outed herself as being on Putin's side in this bullshit, not just, well, there's a lot of difficult and complex issues like Russell Brand style in this, like, we gotta not be afraid to ask the questions about what we... No. Her whole thing is like, well, he's just gonna have to keep shitting on this country full of people and murdering their citizens for a while until they let him decide what they do with their country. And the whole premise of this, according to Dinesh D'Souza, is that he has the right to do this. Honestly, he has the right to. It's excusable. It's understandable that he would be engaged in this. Meanwhile, mask mandates temporarily, which have all gone away for the most part, are authoritarian dictatorship, and we might as well be living in China.
Rebekah, you just said something to me that's very fascinating, which is that...
Yes, a lot of what you said was psychedelic horseshit. And I feel like I've licked a shroom full of dumbass. Can you break down one of these?
You know, you would hardly be accused of being a Putin apologist. You are, in fact...
She just said she basically just showed sympathy for him. You are, in fact, what?
The book is a kind of scorched earth expose of Putin and the bandits around him. And yet
it's still macho and kind of blows smoke up his ass. It's one of those books that poses as being against him, but in reality, it's kind of supportive. It's kind of like the Pandora Papers, which magically came out and showed where oligarchs and rich people from all over the world have stashed money away and have yachts and all this kind of stuff. Except when it got to Putin, the only thing it showed was that he had a sexy girlfriend in London and he keeps her in an apartment. Interestingly enough, it didn't layer out any of the bank accounts he had. It's curious, isn't it? It's curious that came out and it showed the dirty laundry of everybody but him, and the laundry that it did show kind of makes him look like a badass to the people around him. Weird.
You made a point that anyone who takes a kind of, let's call it America first way of thinking about the world, we have to say that if we think about American interests, and of course America came up with the Monroe Doctrine, just as you said, in order to protect its own backyard, that there is an element of rationale in what Putin is saying when he says, in effect, I need to protect my backyard.
No, the everything was not going fine in terms of the Monroe Doctrine, and then all of a sudden, we decided in 2014 to fucking invade Mexico and take more territory because, you know, people in Texas and Arizona speak Spanish. A lot of them have, you know, Mexican family over there, and that land sort of should have been a part of the United States anyways. So America launched an attack to push its border, which it's very concerned about, deeper into Mexico for security reasons. Remember when that happened in 2014? Oh, you don't. Do you remember in 2014 when right after that happened, China and Russia decided they needed to form an alliance with Mexico to protect them from American adventurism into northern Mexico where we were seizing territory? No, you don't remember that fucking happening? Do you remember last November when all of a sudden Mexico started getting military support from China out of nowhere, and we decided that was our last straw, and we amassed 100,000 tanks on the border of Mexico and America and said, we're only really there doing exercises, and then a month later we launched an invasion, you fucking tool. I swear to God, I am so fucking tired of people who couldn't shit out an analogy if they were force-fed a book on analogies like a foie gras goose.
I don't like the idea of NATO troops breathing down my neck 100 miles away from St. Petersburg any more than you would if the situations were reversed.
If the situations were reversed, technically speaking, I, like Demes and his guest, who is an even bigger mess, would be speaking freely on the internet from a country that allows that free speech to exist. And so my concern about NATO or another group like it being closer to me would be a positive sign, not a negative sign. I would feel like the people in Ukraine would feel if NATO moved in.
Do you think that, in fairness, that the West has been a little dismissive of Russia's legitimate security concerns?
Excuse me, citation needed. I'm going to interrupt. Hi. First of all, you're beautiful. Love you. Have fun at the pool. See you in a minute. Sorry, my girlfriend's in a bathing suit right now. The answer is no, by the way. See you in a little bit. For the record, if I may, the premise that they have legitimate security concerns is on its face bullshit.
In that sense, did the West, through its own recklessness...
Recklessness. Our recklessness to what? Talk to Ukraine about joining in 2008 and not bring it up again till now? Till they were already under attack?
Obviously, Putin's doing it. We're not trying to say that the West is doing it, but did the West contribute to this?
No.
This is kind of Mearsheimer's point in a real...
Mearsheimer is a fucking moron. For those of you that don't know, a lot of the right wing has been citing this Mearsheimer dude because he's been giving a lot of speeches basically defending the idea that Russia has these security concerns and they have every right and every reason to be upset with NATO knocking on their door. When in reality, what did he really go after in 2014 and later when Zelensky became president? In the country was their relationship with the EU and the fact that they would end up supplying oil and gas to the European Union. It had nothing to do with friggin' NATO at all. This is a resource war. He's a prick. Forget it.
Analysis of the situation. And is there the case that the Biden administration in the West does bear a little bit of the blame here?
No. Next.
So I 100% agree with John Mearsheimer.
Okay, so you're a moron. I see.
In fact, this is a highly intelligent person. He's a West Point graduate, right? But look, nobody invites John Mearsheimer to speak on TV. Even...
Yes, because he's turned out to be wrong on everything. And the only thing that lines up with what he's been saying for years is his Russian apologetics.
On regular networks that are conservative leaning, because his version of events, like the reality that he's describing to us, real politics, right, which drives every single statesman, real statesman, right?
Yes, the real statesmen are more concerned about the security concerns of a lunatic who parrots Hitler's talking points. That's real politique.
Whether not just authoritarians. So he describes it how it is. So here's the crux of the matter, Dinesh. We have refused to acknowledge that Putin has legitimate security concerns, and we pretend that those don't exist.
Oh, he has legitimate security concerns. He's probably concerned that some people in his own staff will snuff him if he's not a sufficient strongman. That's a significant concern. Do I give a shit? No. if you lie down with mercenaries, you wake up with a knife in the back of your head.
But they do exist. And the longer we are going to deny that reality, we are not going to be able to predict how far Putin is going to go in order to defend his perceived security concerns and his perceived sphere of influence. And we also are going to...
Yeah, again, why the fuck am I supposed to care? Why the fuck does it once his concerns entail the invasion of a sovereign country and forcibly turning it under his influence, things that normally we in the West don't like it when our countries do it. We've been out in the street over it. And that's why we support the Russians who are protesting this as well. I don't like it when we do it, so why the fuck would I like it when he does it?
Underestimate what he can potentially do, and what he can
potentially do is nuke us.
Potentially do, and I've said it many times, and this is why in some quarters I'm no longer invited, is because I talk realistically. I provide sober intelligence analysis instead of making people feel good. He may use tactical nuclear weapons.
Yes, we know that. There are a lot of people saying that that's a concern, and that he might. What do you mean you're not invited on? I've seen that. I've literally seen that exact phrase and concern repeated multiple times on MSNBC. What the fuck kind of outsider do you think you are? Oh, I get it. It's the part where you're like, it's embarrassing for him, and I'm sympathetic. The sympathy part's what gets you kicked off there, because everybody's like, are you a fucking mad person?
To de-escalate conflict in Ukraine and to achieve victory that he believes is very important for him to achieve.
So he's going to use a tactical nuclear weapon to de-escalate the war. Okay, I can see that. That's legitimate, right? According to this woman in Dames.
Rebekah, that's very sobering analysis. I'm assuming it applies not just to Putin.
Yeah, both of them were fucking drunk when this whole thing started.
But also to the way we understand China. As you say, all countries in the world operate in their own self-interest, and so this...
Oh, for fuck's sake. Within parameters. When's the last... Look, France and Germany can dick around about cheese and sausage prices and whether or not Renaults and BMWs get sold in their country. That's not on the scale of these where they were in 1939, you fucking moron.
Kind of analytical playbook is absolutely vital. Folks,
it's garbage. This whole conversation is garbage. It makes no sense. It's gibberish. It's apologetics. That's the only thing we heard. Roseanne Czar. That's funny, human being. It's Roseanne Czar. That's got to be her nickname from now on. Well done, human being in the chat.
I recommend Putins Playbook by Rebekah Koffler. Rebekah,
I haven't read it, but that shouldn't stop you.
thanks so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dinesh. Very, very nice to be here with you and your audience.
I'm back with...
Yikes. Holy hell. But this is... what we just saw, for the record, is the equivalent of the conversation that we saw with, that Russell Brand had with Jimmy Dore, that Jimmy Dore had with Kurt Metzger, that fucking Max Blumenthal and Aaron Mate have been pitching around. This and this subcurrent conversation is effectively just a wave of Putin apologetics. You gotta understand. Why would you want NATO at your doorstep? I would if I was a free and open country and on my other doorstep was Russia. Of course I would. I got news for you. Ukraine didn't worry about NATO being on their doorstep. There were a bunch of countries on Ukraine's doorstep. Have been for a long fucking time. Do you think they had a security concern? Do you think not being a member of NATO, they were worried about, oh fuck, what if Poland comes in? What are we going to do? Oh, they've lined up Lithuania and Latvia are just north of us. If they take over Belarus, we're going to be squeezed between them. You think Ukraine gave a rat's ass? They had NATO on their doorstep. Of course not. NATO was 1,000 miles from St. Petersburg in the same way that they were 1,000 miles from Minsk. Now they're 100 miles from Minsk, or probably 300 miles because of the water. Does Belarus have to worry about being attacked by NATO, even though they're not a member country? No. Why is it that Vladimir Putin is the only person that has this concern, apparently, and it's somehow legitimate amongst these assholes? Yeah. Oh, thank you, Bridget, by the way. From one Gen Xer to another, love watching you call out that bullshit. Well, thank you. Gen Xer for life. Apparently. Does anybody, like, I have yet to hear, I think I'm the only person who's brought this up, that Ukraine had NATO on its doorstep and never worried about it. Why the fuck would Russia worry about NATO on its doorstep? Because Ukraine didn't have to join. They weren't being pressured to join. There was no thuggery around it. The EU wasn't going to deny Ukraine the ability to trade in the country or anything like that if they didn't join NATO. Right? At no point. None of that. That never happened. But somehow, Russia has to worry about that if Ukraine joins, that's really just, that's staging ground now. Lithuania and Latvia, which are going to have to be knocked over next, along with Moldova, that's their ass kicking is after Ukraine. That's just understand that, because if he's going to put the band back together in terms of the old USSR states and put them under one, supreme controller, that includes all those fucking countries. So is that okay too? Is Latvia next all right? Because he's concerned. Is his concern when he goes over Lithuania, when he rolls over Lithuania? Is that okay? How about Turkey? Turkey's a part of NATO. What if he decides to take Turkey? Is that all right? I mean, he's got legitimate concerns. NATO's on his doorstep. None of these other countries that had NATO on their doorstep, on their front door, were worried about it. It's just an interesting thing that is never a part of this conversation. NATO was coming for him. Why would they come for him? Why the fuck? If Russia was on the up and up and wasn't a danger to the world, the NATO alliance would fade away like it kind of was. It was kind of living out its own long fade because there wasn't a concern. It would have been a treaty that only needed to last 80 years or something like that. But this asshole had to go and jumpstart it by fucking around. P.S. Ever since they signed that sovereignty agreement with NATO in 97, Georgia, Chechnya, both the Donbass and Crimea. Yeah, these countries have a reason to worry that Russia is on their doorstep. Ukraine was concerned that Russia was on their doorstep, and their concerns have been completely justified.
Rebekah.
All right, we finished this one out. Sorry, I had to. Just gross. You're watching HAL SPARKS Mega Worldwide, by the way. Thanks for watching. I'm on a small 3-day jaunt with my girlfriend. She just finished her project that she'd been slaving away at for over a month and a half, and basically needed a couple days away. So I packed up my little road version of my gear and took her to the beach. So we're here. She's at the pool. I'm with you guys. I love you. Hi. As we move through the show today, just keep that in mind. And then, all right, next up, there's a big concern, folks. It's the New World Order. The New World Order is here. You've been hearing about it since I'm gonna go with the first time you heard that Ministry song, or you've heard about, that was quite the S sibilance just then. That was good. You've heard about it endlessly on Alex Jones and on numerous conspiracy theory YouTube videos, documentaries, the conspiracy of the New World Order, wherein no one ever seems to bring up, well, if there's a New World Order, there should have been an Old World Order, right? So what's the Old World Order then? Why would you need a New World Order if there hadn't been a world order before? What would that? Well, of course, theocracies, monarchies, and dictatorships running the fucking world and using their serfs as cannon fodder for resource wars forever and ever. No rule of law, no Geneva Conventions, no international conventions on the use of biological and chemical weapons. None of that shit. That's all New World Order shit. No World Bank, no like World Health Organization, those kind of things, trying to coordinate between democracies to try and help each other out. Like, hey, we've got a wheat blight in our country. We don't know what to do with it. We've dealt with that kind of thing before. We'll send you some stuff. Maybe that'll work out, and our scientists will work with your scientists so that we don't have another fucking Dark Ages. Cool, cool. That was that's the New World Order. Apparently, there's going to be a New World Order. It's the equivalent, I suppose, of let's see, I have to open this guy up. Trump's "Make America Great" over and over, right? So, oh, whoops, I gotta unmute that. Is that not in there? What's weird? Give me 1 second. Let's go to this guy. We'll add this.
Magoo.
All right, that seems to be in there. Is there another one? Okay, missing. I see. All right, so there we go. Let me put this away.
Magoo.
There you go. Now it works. Just making sure that people know what's going on, you know.
Assuming you're believing in atmospheric filth.
There we go. So, over the course of Magoo, the New World Order obviously is not getting the best press in the world over time, and certainly is it's been a point of paranoia for a long time, especially considering who it would negatively affect. Now, who would be against an alliance of liberal democracies wherein they share in trade and security and science and space travel and fighting disease and all that kind of stuff, and you are on the other side of that because you want to be an autocrat or a dictator for life, where you can keep your people in isolation. If you want to be a Kim Jong-un, for example, you want to be a Xi Jinping, you want to be a Vladimir Putin, apparently you would do everything you can to paint said agreement, alliances amongst other people, as being terrible. And you would use any asshole that you could find who was gullible and paranoid themselves to help you with a whisper campaign to make everybody else think that. And voila, YouTube videos about the New World Order, right? There you go. Just for the record. Hi, I'm Hal Sparks. You're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide. Yeah, I think I'm the only person who talks like this. You're welcome. All right. Which brings us to, by the way, this dickhead, Glenn Beck. Well, Glenn Beck's ass. And Glenn Beck's books and his garbage can and an old monitor and this giant touchscreen thing that he has but never uses, a box of Wheaties, which I'm going to guess was about a trans athlete joke he did earlier, because that's what it do. This is a little stand for an iPad. He's also writing things physically over here. This is another one of his Sonic beverages. So we know he's back to eating shit and treating his body like a garbage can. And that's Stu, who helps him do it. Here we go. So this is the consequences of a, quote, new world order could be huge. The consequences. Yikes.
So Elon Musk,
He's wearing his own merch. He's wearing a Blaze Media shirt. This is Blaze Media action figure Glenn Beck today with his jogging suit on. We're not buying it, dude. You didn't hit the gym. And there's his book for sale. And this is what an idiot Glenn Beck is. Glenn Beck is such an egomaniac that his name had to be above the title on his book. Meanwhile, that means that while his name is getting in the picture where he set up this book to be seen every time they use this camera angle, the title of the book isn't. Do you see what I mean? You see how dumb that is? If he had any room in his ego for anything but Glenn Beckiness and his stupid Glenn Becky, he's got friggin'. It's like Saddam Hussein's bathroom. The amount of just glitz with his own name on it he's got everywhere. But because he can't not do that, he had to put the title of the book on the bottom of the front, on the bottom of the cover, so you don't see it.
Increasingly convinced that corporate ESG is the devil incarnate. This is really good news.
Why? Why is it really good news? He just wants to be able to invest in stuff, and he doesn't want companies that he doesn't want to invest in to get a better mark than his. Yeah.
Some people that are now big players that are starting to talk about this as a reality. I mean, there is such a disconnect. Anyone who tells you this is not what's going on, it's no longer Glenn Beck's crazy theory and Glenn Beck's crazy book.
Yes, it is. It is. It's Glenn Beck's crazy theory and Glenn Beck's crazy book. The Great Reset and ESG are not linked in any way. ESG is just because there are enough investors. It's a marketing ploy. People and organizations want to be able to tell their shareholders, especially giant pension funds, that they are investing in things that are future forward, that aren't fossil fuel exploration, but are for solar and that kind of stuff. And so many people want that, and that they insist on that from these giant organizations, that they wanted some sort of like organic labeling on shit. Think of ESG as the organic labeling of stocks and investments for your portfolio. And just like organics, some of it's truly organic and a lot of it's bullshit.
There are so many people, and for instance, NYU professor of finance, Aswath, Damaran.
Jesus. You couldn't check right before? You're citing the dude as being on your side? You know, the big heavy hitter. You know, people, big household names like Asforce Damshan, if I got a hard.
Has been writing about ESG.
Cool.
So what he said, when I first wrote about ESG 2 years ago, I did so because I was skeptical of the unquestioning belief that people had in its success. Amen.
What do you mean, amen? That it would work as a marketing scheme for... all right.
This is one of the things that really bothers me about this, is everybody is just so convinced that this is all going to work. When they're talking about... when I first read...
Wait a minute. Finish what the fucking guy was saying. Literally, from the quote he's read so far, it could be like, when I started writing about ESG, I thought that this... I was skeptical about whether or not this would lead to people investing in more forward-thinking and healthy investments. And then it turned out, no, they're investing in a bunch of bullshit, or they're using the ESG score to vote for, to invest in things that are the opposite of it.
The World Economic Forum website.
Oh, God.
And they were unveiling all of their plans. When I got to the food thing,
I went, I'm never gonna eat at Sonic ever again. Can you imagine the crap that's in soda? When I read the stuff that was on the World Economic Forum about how they were gonna poison everybody with fast food, I was like, not me. You're not gonna get Glenn Beck. You're never gonna. I do want fries with that. Thank you for asking.
Realized these people are criminally insane. They're criminally insane. You're going to take 10,000 years of farming and flush it down the toilet?
No. You're thinking of Trump call logs.
And come up with a new system of farming, literally from seed to plate.
What? They're going to apply modern science instead of looking back at thousands of years of blight and famine and flooding and the inability to grow things and the variance of crops and recognize that people need to live no matter, whether, the harvest has been normal or not, and try to divine a way of growing crops in a way that feeds as many people as possible, in a way that it doesn't look like rice fields from the 1400s. Why would scientists look at that? Why would they put aside years of witchcraft to start building a scientific approach to medicine? Why would anyone do that? Why would anyone put aside the science? All right.
And you're going to do that in 8 years?
Well, I mean, we have mapped the human genome in less time.
Really?
Yeah. Again, I don't know what the fuck. What again? What are they trying to do? Raise crop yields so people don't starve to fucking death? Have you looked at the wheat issues about Russia and Ukraine right now? You do realize that because of Russia invading Ukraine, we could lose as many as 500 million people to starvation in the next 18 months. Simply because the number 2 wheat producer on Earth attacked the number 5 wheat producer on Earth. And all the countries that rely on wheat imports for a large portion of their calories are fucked into a cocked hat because of that. You don't think that sensible people might want to come up with a system where you could grow food in environments that is not conducive to growing food scientifically, so that you don't lose a 500 million people?
Oh, that's not criminally insane or criminally arrogant at all.
Criminally arrogant. I mean, the irony. Glenn, I don't give a rat fuck about the World Economic Forum and all these kind of groupings together. When the G20 gets together and all these groups, there's a big chunk of those folks, and a big chunk of their conversation is about a bunch of my people are going to die if we run out of food. And we're working on a way that we can make sure we don't run out of food no matter what. Especially since China and Russia and India don't seem to give a shit about climate change at all. And we can do all we want to try and fix that, but the floods are coming. The sea rise is coming. The loss of land mass is coming. And we've got to make sure that we have a way to produce food that in the past might have relied on the weather acting fucking normal. And it's not going to anymore. So if you had a Christian fucking thought in your brain or a shred of decency in your heart, you might look at that problem and go, that's a lot of dead people. Is there something we could do? Could we get a bunch of the people together and try to figure out a way to produce food that requires less energy, less water, that is absolutely refined like all the other technology humans have come up with, so that we don't have to rely on the wave of the sun or the cycle of the seasons to feed people who might die from starvation because we do.
Anyway, he said,
Also, by the way, all of these companies are doing it from a capitalistic standpoint. It's investments. It's them putting their time in and their money in and making sure that it's still...
initially believed that it was a flawed concept that needed fixing. But after 2 years of interactions with people who claim to know the concept really well, but don't seem capable of making solid cases for it, and witnessing its takeover by well-heeled entities with agendas, I'm convinced that there will soon be room for only two types of people in the ESG space. The first will be the useful idiots, well-meaning individuals who believe that they are advancing the cause of goodness as they toil in the trenches of ESG measurement services, ESG arms of consulting firms, and ESG investment funds. The second will be the feckless knaves who know fully well the void behind the concept, but see an opportunity to make money. I know those are not edifying choices, but I don't see...
Also, what... This dude is, again, that's exactly what I said. This dude is like, I don't think ESG will work. There'll be people who think they're doing some good on a level trying to go, this is a good investment, this is good for the environment, this is a bad investment, this is bad for the environment, this is good for social programs, this is terrible to areas, they're using up all the water that these indigenous people need, this is terrible because they have control over the government for producing chocolate and shit like that, and these are good because they found a sustainable way to grow and it supports everybody around it, and blah, blah, blah. Like those two, those are the people in the first example, and then the other people who are just living like a tick off of it, lying in this... I told you, it's the same thing as fucking organics. It is the same. This is like, imagine somebody at fucking the head of 4-H writing a paper or an op-ed saying organic on the one hand, I think it's great, or all natural. Putting all natural on a label, I initially thought was a great idea because it would drive people towards, knowing that there's a market for natural foods and natural consumption. And then what turned out to happen was that, like, half of them were people who were trying very desperately to establish what natural meant. And then a bunch of people who were just figuring, like, if we slap all natural on shit, call it that. I mean, technically speaking, nuclear war is all natural because humans made it. Is an anthill unnatural? Of course not. So is anything a human makes with their hands unnatural? Of course not. So everything's all natural, so we can slap it on that. Your Honor, I rest my case.
Good ones, other than leaving the ESG space completely. Good luck.
And by the way, the ESG space, it's not an all-encompassing system. It's a marketing scheme for investments. You paranoid fuckhead. That's a watery bullshit statement, exactly in line with what everybody thinks it is, you paranoid lunatic.
Pretty damning.
No, it isn't. Again, it's the same shit I heard written about organics or GMOs or fucking... Oh, God.
Now, let's couple
that with high fructose corn syrup. Pass the Sonic.
To the real world. CNBC has...
Shit. Let's take a bullshit concept that I in no way established as a reality and link it to a story that has nothing to do with it but uses scary language like New World Order. You think that's where this phrase finally comes in? And go, aha,
just run a
lava is organic.
An op-ed, a New World Order.
And it's an op-ed, is it? An opinion? Editorial? It's an opinion. It's editorial. It's editorial. It's my opinion. It's my opinion. My sister, my daughter, my sister.
Emerging, and the world is not ready for it.
Uh-oh. Dun, dun, dun.
This is written by the chief executive officer of the Atlantic Council, and so, somebody who was like, yay, world order.
Is that what the Atlantic Council does? I thought that was the Atlantis Council.
But he says that we're not ready for it at all.
Dear God. Yeah, we're not dressed for it. The New World Order is here, and I've got nothing to wear.
He said, are we ready for the New World Order? That's the provocative title of the panel that led off the ambitiously named World Government Summit last week. And it was framed to suggest that a New World Order is emerging and the world's not ready for it.
Yeah, because our supply chains are spread all over the place, and they're linked to a bunch of countries that won't be part of a world order because they're fucking dictatorships.
There has been a proliferation of writing about who will shape the future world order since Vladimir Putin launched his invasion in Ukraine.
Yeah, weird.
The tempting conclusion, should Ukraine survive as an independent, sovereign, and democratic country, the U.S. and Europe-backed forces will regain momentum against the previously ascendant Russian-Chinese forces of authoritarianism.
Well, not so fast, because Glenn Beck thinks those two forces are just fine right where they are.
And in at least Putin's case, evil. I think we can say that about China, too. Can we pony up maybe to the big boy table just for a second and say...
Okay. All sarcasm aside, or I guess wry ironic. No, I'm not giving him that much credit. Just syrupy sarcasm aside, they're going with the positive attack outside the country part, which has always been a greater standard. And yes, we can. I don't know why the Atlantic Council guy doesn't want to go straight with Xi Jinping. I'm going to guess because currently there are American companies and American businesses that are over there, or citizens. We're currently interacting with them in a way that they haven't been fully excluded from the economic system yet, based on thinking the idea that if the world puts pressure on them, they'll straighten up around Xinjiang and stop it. Do I think they will? I doubt it.
Yeah, I think we can call the regime in China evil.
Again, what the... Yes, fine. Cool, Glenn. Russia and China are evil in this context. The world order this asshole is talking about is the not evil countries getting together and playing in the same sandbox. That's the world order they're talking about. And then anybody who doesn't want to be evil can play in our sandbox too. If you want to be evil, either build your own sandbox or fuck straight off.
Sounds like good news, but there's a downside. My conversations in Dubai at the World Government Summit and the Atlantic Council's Global Energy Forum show little enthusiasm or conviction for this bifurcated vision of the future.
We're in a shock moment right now. There's still a lot going on. This is in flux currently. Nobody wants to install one. Everybody's still like, well, if China could, if Russia, if Putin, I don't know if he, I'm sure there was a lot of that. These folks were meeting in Dubai, for fuck's sake. Dubai, where I was once almost arrested for a joke. And not even a joke I meant to tell as an offense, but one that was misunderstood.
Middle Eastern participants have no interest in abandoning relations with China, the leading trading partner for Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates.
Right.
Or breaking with Russia, which established itself as a force to be reckoned with when it saved Syrian President Bashar al-Assad.
Al-Assad, whatever.
Through its military intervention in its war. Beyond that, our Middle East partners have lost confidence in America's commitment to global leadership, or confidence, following last year's botched Afghanistan withdrawal.
I'm sorry. Botched is the modifier. Withdrawal is the actual meaningful word there. We're not there anymore. And the reason that they've lost confidence is because they used to gain confidence while we were fucking around in Afghanistan. They benefited from us fucking around in Afghanistan. We were drawing fire away from them while we were fucking around in Afghanistan. And as soon as we got out, those rifles, those bits of ill will turned on them, as they should have been this entire time.
They're also experiencing whiplash from the Trump administration that trashed the nuclear deal with Iran to Biden's administration, which they feel is pursuing it without sufficiently factoring in Tehran's regional aggression. In all my many years in the Middle East...
Yeah, wonder why the Saudis think that. Guys, mind if I pull up a map for a second? Can we do a little bit of that business? Hold on. Map of the Middle East. Doo-ba-dee-doo, doo-ba-dee-doo. Here we go, it's a map of the Middle East. Hey, it's a map of the Middle East. Hold on, get back up here. All right, I guess I gotta. So, let's see if I can pull this guy up here for you, if I may. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't mind. Let me go in here, try to, whoops, what happened there? Quit it. I don't want to move that around. Give me this guy. Take this over here, and then move it over like that. Okay, so let me see if I can drag this up a little. Whoops. It's way easier to move things around in slobs and all these other things in this particular case. But here's Iran. Here's Saudi Arabia. Here's Iraq. Saudi Arabia. And by the way, and here's Yemen down here. So this is where the missiles are flying in to Saudi Arabia. This is where our troops are here, or were under Trump, playing missile catcher. And right down here in this part of Saudi Arabia are a bunch of Iranian-backed militants who don't like the fact that the Saudi Arabian the Saudi Arabian royal family has control over this huge swath of land and all this kind of stuff. And they've been fighting over here, and it's a big deal. Over here are a bunch of Saudi-backed rebels in the Iranian area who like this area because it's full of oil. And so these guys want, for religious reasons, to take over this on behalf of these guys. And these guys right here want to take over this area for these guys in here. And so that's fucked up. If at some point we move past a nuclear stand, or the sort of warlike standoff with Iran, things go back to some semblance of normalcy, where Iran is a functioning country in relationship, even with its more extreme leaders in terms of its religious front. If it ever normalizes and becomes, goes back to where it kind of was, where the people themselves were very much aligned with Europeans for a good long while, that puts the Saudis on the receiving end of all the negative. Beg your pardon. I should point on here. You're right. Sorry, I don't have a pointer. So that's right. So let me do that again. That's my bad. I was on the wrong screen. Okay. So Saudi Arabia, Iran, Yemen, Iraq, Oman, and then all these little there's Syria, there's Israel's right over here. Qatar right on the end of this. Here's where the UAE is. This is where these folks met, right? And the water that goes around here, like getting oil in and out of Iran, getting oil in and out of Saudi Arabia, they would be like knuckling each other's, or elbowing each other's ships going out of this area into the Gulf of Oman. So in Saudi Arabia, sorry, I thought I was pointing this out, but so there's Saudi backed right here in this area. There are Saudi-backed rebels who are trying to take the oil from these oil fields right in here, and basically they want to seize this area and give it to the Saudi Arabians, to the Saudi royal family, and keep it under Saudi Arabian control. And then there are Iranian-backed people down here, in just above Qatar in this area, that are fighting against the Saudis and want, control of basically this area and then eventually Saudi Arabia, but this area for shipping and all this other shit coming from Iran. So there you go. So it's been back and forth, but this area right here and this area right here, that's a big battle zone on either side of the water, on the either side of the Persian Gulf. Yemen down here, this whole area right here is where the missiles are flying in, and our soldiers were acting as missile catchers during the war. And so, during the Trump administration, rather. And so, we've been trying to dial that shit down for years. We have something like 900 troops stationed in and around there. They've been dwindling. The Biden administration is going to pull all of them out. That's why Saudi Arabia's mad. That's one of the other reasons why they didn't want to help us with oil prices and all that shit, is because we don't want our soldiers playing shield against Yemen missiles, like Houthi missiles, essentially, in this area. So, if at any point Iran becomes friendly with the West again and evens things out through their alliance with the West and through Turkey and this area, they make it really difficult for Russia to bypass, go through Iran to bring their oil to market. There's a lot of other elements here, but it's just bad news for the Saudis, effectively, long term. So, of course, they don't like the Iran deal. They've been subverting the Iran deal as much as, Israel has. Israel just doesn't think it's going to work. So that's their security concern. And they're afraid that the religious rulers of Iran are actually going to go secretly build a nuke and then send it to Israel and it'll be over in a day. That's their big concern. And it's a relatively legitimate one, although the deal will actually work. The Saudis don't want it to happen because of hundreds of years of trade that will happen. And yes, Yemen is fucked. Yemen is a terrible area. It's a pirate nation, just like Eritrea, where there's full-on slavery going on. Eastern Sudan and Somalia, this whole area right here is just horrifying right now. Has been for a long time. But anyways, that's the back and forth about the Saudis not wanting to play footsie. Is largely why the Saudis aren't playing along on a lot of this stuff, simply because they don't want the Iran deal to happen because of the financial aspects.
Over the years, I have never heard this level of frustration from Mideast government officials with American policymakers.
Good. The other reason is because we are getting off of fossil fuels. Once we are 100% energy independent, where we don't have to buy it from anywhere else, where we can produce enough of it ourselves, and literally people can use ESG scores to go, you know what, I'm going to buy from Chevron, or I'm going to buy from Exxon, or I'm going to buy from BP, but I insist, if the money that we put into this, or that we buy, the oil that's actually brought out is using a blood diamond standard, where we will take it from the oil fields that come from here. We will take it from Mexican oil fields. We will take it from Northern European oil fields or around Sweden and that kind of stuff. But if it's mined, just like blood diamonds, if it's mined from an area that exploits the people and the environment, we're not going to take it. And it will matter. And oil used to be oil. But now, between what's going on in Russia, they're looking at that and going, and how they behave, how the Saudis behave, and how the Iranians might come around eventually. They're recognizing that if the Iranians get a deal with the United States and don't produce any of these things, and they start playing nice, we might start getting oil from Iran, and we haven't, that oil's been largely sitting compared to the amount that's been pumped out of Saudi Arabia, and they're fairly oil poor at this point.
So he goes on to talk about how there have been now 3 attempts to organize the world. And he said it was the Treaty of Versailles and the League of Nations, which got into European fascism and everything else. Then World War II.
Yeah, just got into that. Just got into it. The Treaty of Versailles, which was about establishing European fascism.
You had the Marshall Plan and Bretton Woods. Then
Yeah, you just had that. Bretton Woods is the primary world order agreement that we're talking about. That is, if you side with us against the Soviets, we'll protect your ships with our ships. If you don't, then Russia's not going to, and pirates will have at them. We can do that for you. All you got to do is be open to trade with your neighbors, not attack anybody, and we're cool. China benefited from this. Without Bretton Woods, there is no China. There is no modern China. Period. End of story. There isn't one. It would instead be the largest brutally impoverished nation on the earth.
You had the third effort, he says, is the Cold War ending, where it became a unipolar world, and now it's this one. Now, I can't take any more people saying this is, a hoax. It's not really happening. Why would you why are all of the biggest magazines, think tanks, scholars all talking about this, including our president?
They aren't. People who talk about ESG are talking about ESG. The same way that people who talk about Brent crude are talking about Brent crude. The same way that if you go to a fucking Bitcoin podcast, all they're fucking talking about is Bitcoin. People within those worlds talk about those things, and there are plenty of sources to hear about them. And then if you reach over and you go, everybody's talking about Bitcoin. Why do you think that? Well, because I watch nothing but fucking Bitcoin YouTube channels all the fucking time. And the other day, somebody talked about coin-operated video games, and the word coin really stuck out to me. And I realized that there's a tie between Bitcoin and coin-operated video games. It's 4 letters, and they happen to be in the same order. But I think it's all part of a big scheme.
Saying that there is a new world order. You must break out of the box of your thinking. This is happening.
So fucking what? It's happened multiple times. It's a descriptor.
Now, how it happens, I don't know. But one of the things that...
Well, thanks. All right. Well, I'm glad we covered that. Every time we do a Glenn Beck video, we have at least a moment where he's like, when is this thing gonna occur? I don't know. What is this all about? I don't know. Why is this thing dangerous or good? I don't know. Like, fucking hell, every time we get halfway through this shit, as halfway through, he always ends up going, I don't know what this means, but it's gotta mean something because other people are talking about it. Jesus Christ. I don't know. I've heard a lot of these things about this Mindhunter show. A lot of people are watching it. I haven't seen it yet. I don't know what it's about, but it can't be good, because Claire was mentioned the other day, and somebody was saying I found it very scary, and somebody else said I wish there was another season. All of it sounded very negative. I don't know.
Is happening is Russia and China are trying to collapse our dollar because we're trying to collapse.
Oh, fuck off.
Russia.
No. They're not trying to collapse our dollar. Even if they wanted to, they fucking well couldn't. There is no way, people, simmer. There is no way the yuan is going to become the reserve currency of the world. Are you out of your fucking mind? No currency on earth that is manipulated directly and regularly for the benefit of the trading country itself without a secondary regulating body is going to be trusted the world over as a reserve currency. Go away. Stop it. Sit down. Shut the fuck up. You're talking out of your ass. It's absurd. And then line that up next. What do you think the ruble is? You think the ruble is a trusted currency? The primary currency of a gangster kleptocracy? You think oil's going to be traded in rubles? Russia's trying to do that now, and that was the key point for Lithuania to go, we're not buying fucking Russian oil anymore then. We're not going to go find rubles in the world and use them to buy this shit. And then have to fly it in physically? Come on.
So what did Russia do this weekend?
Who cares?
Russia, the Bank of Russia,
Oh, they still have one? That's adorable.
has resumed gold purchases. More importantly, they are now fixing the ruble, 5,000 rubles per 1 gram of gold. So they're on a
Yes, they're going to go on the gold standard. Have fun. Guess what? You now get to have your economy manipulated by the gold market. And since the rest of the world doesn't give a fuck about the price of gold for their currency, especially the world's reserve currency, they can capsize it anytime they want to.
gold standard now. If they attach a gold standard to the rubles, this is what the Bank of Russia is now doing. If they've already said we're going to shut down all oil and gas exports unless you buy it in rubles.
Right. So what?
Well, nobody wants rubles.
Right.
They knew that. So now Russia has said, we're on a gold standard. Now, it's not exactly that, but it's close enough.
Yeah, it's close enough. I mean, in world economics and in dealing with a country that is currently murdering people in the streets and leaving corpses for dogs to eat them, and basically it's a gold standard. It's almost think of it as Russia's trying to go for that sweet spot during the Vietnam War that America found itself in, where it was on the shit end of an exercise in absolute violence that it couldn't get itself out of, and it was still on a gold standard. Remember that? Remember how great America was doing during the Vietnam War? Yeah, well, Russia has decided, while they're having their own Vietnam, to go back to the monetary system that was inadequate to pay for the debts they ran up during Vietnam. What the fuck? What? Who thinks this is a good idea? This is terrible. I swear to God, this is the stupidest thing he's come up with yet. Yes, Russia is going back to the Vietnam War standard. Please.
So you can take gold and send it to
And shove it up your ass.
Russia. They'll give you the rubles. You buy the oil. You give the rubles back.
Oh, is that how it works? So basically you're paying for oil in gold. So what? So Russia can have a lot of pretty rock? At the pretty rock? I swear to God, Russia has been watching too many, I guess, old Rush Limbaugh and actual Justice Warrior and Tom Hartman gold ads.
They're stocking up on gold.
So what?
This will be very, very bad for the United States. It'll
Why?
good, for gold prices if you have that.
Yeah, we don't have to give a fuck because our currency is not backed by gold, nor is it backed by tin or aluminum or ceramic semiconductors or fucking adamantium or vibranium. Who gives a shit?
Generally, I don't think.
If they were stocking up on it and we were still on a gold standard, we'd kind of be fucked. Now we don't care.
The United States has a lot of that.
We don't need any. Who cares?
And will it work? Yes. Listen
No.
to this. This is from the CEO of BASF, which I'm not sure what they make other than they're a petrochemical company. And it's, if you...
Well, why do your research? I'm sure his name will be easy to pronounce, though. The company BASF, I don't even know what the B stands for. I'm pretty sure I know what the A and the F stand for. The S is still up for grabs. But the CEO, whose name was Fismhouden Gambahumbatafane. I hope I'm butchering that
It's
correctly.
like, remember the days when you used to watch Sunday morning TV shows?
Yes, Sunday morning TV shows. I remember when I used to watch Sunday morning TV shows. We're being led towards a commercial break, aren't we? If this motherfucker sells gold and we're just being lassoed into this, I recognize I'm only on the first floor, but I will jump off this balcony into the sand and run into the water fully clothed. This
On politics, and it'd be like, BASF, we make everything you need.
Yeah, I don't remember that ad.
Okay, like what? Everything.
Were they the company that said, like, we make the things that you like better? So did they have, like,
Yeah,
a
maybe.
slogan like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, something like that. I don't remember. You remember? I don't know. I was so fucked up on gin and Sonic.
Yeah.
Make the things you need.
Oh, yes. Good point. Thank you, Cosmic Rose. You're watching HAL Sparks Mega Worldwide. They post these clips. I go through the whole goddamn thing. Just saying.
They make the things you need better.
Yeah. So anyway,
They improve them.
they make everything from, I don't know, tape to styrofoam to, well, in this case, they make fertilizer as well.
Yes. So, one of the big things it shouldn't surprise anyone about is that Russia, because they produce as much wheat as they do, they also have a lot of the potash and nitrogen used to make fertilizer, and so they make a lot of it world over. And so the inability to get fertilizer from Russia, man, Russia just cornered the market on all the stuff we need. You know what I mean? Like, everything that comes out of Russia is good. Oil, gas, shit. They got all the sweet stuff. And I can remember the days when they used to make space stuff. Anyways, they do make a lot of that stuff. And it not getting to market for parts of Europe, for especially China, it's going to lead to starvation in a bunch of places. That's the 500 million people I'm talking about in the next 18 months. That's the price of food going up. That has nothing to do with them hoarding gold or making the ruble, worth a goddamn. Nothing to do with that. That is strictly that we globally relied on them as a provider of potash and nitrogen. That's it.
So he did the CEO just did an interview because they're talking about, in Germany, what do we do without gas from Russia? And the new chancellor's like, don't worry about it. Just turn your temperature down by 2 degrees. It'll be fine. And BASF is like, that's a recipe for disaster. That's not going to work.
No, it isn't. That wasn't their response at all. Him saying, turn your thermostat down 2 degrees to cut waste in this particular situation, and the fact that the U.S. is backing them up and Qatar's providing them with some, and we're going to, we'll work it out afterwards. And more than likely, they'll start sourcing it out of Ukraine after all this. That's right. Oil and gas exploration in Ukraine is going to go through the roof as soon as this bullshit is over, and nobody's going to be buying the Russian stuff for a very long fucking time.
He said, we could be energy independent maybe in 5 years, but if they shut things down, Russia covers 55% of German natural gas. He said, many, many things would collapse here. We'd have high levels of unemployment. Many companies would go bankrupt. It would lead to irreversible damage. It would put the German economy into its worst crisis since the Weimar Republic.
Again, Germany dug this hole that they find themselves in. Secondarily, NATO countries, the United States, Qatar, and a couple of other Saudi-related countries said they will provide natural gas to Germany during this time of transition. Again, this time of transition is probably 2 years to get the oil and gas exploration up and running out of Ukraine. Yes, and in 5 years, full flow back. And why is this surprising to anyone? This is the lesson of this is not you got to bend over and let Russia do whatever they want, otherwise you're going to be a deep shit. The lesson is don't buy into this in the future, and the mistakes that Angela Merkel made and others, don't make those again. And again, what the fuck does this have to do with the New World Order?
Many small, medium-sized company in particular, it would mean the end. We can't risk it. A delivery stop for a short time would perhaps open the eyes of many on both sides. It'd make clear the magnitude of the consequences. But if we don't get more Russian gas for a long time, we have a problem here in Germany. People often make no connection at all between a boycott and their own job, as if our economy and prosperity are set in stone. This is such an American problem.
Why is it an American problem? This isn't even This isn't even a French problem. This isn't a Moldovan problem. This isn't even a Spain problem. Why is Germany's completely out of balance reliance on Russian oil and natural gas suddenly the standard, the gold standard of being fucked into a cocked hat by this situation when none of the other... Where the fuck is Belgium in this? Why is this not uniquely a Belgian problem?
Will be a catastrophe.
They say that like Russia get like 30% of, Europe gets 30% of their oil and natural gas from Russia. And that's a huge deal to get rid of. Well, of that 30%, something like 60% of it goes just to fucking Germany.
And we will feel it clearly next year more than this one, because most of the fertilizers that the farmers need this year has already been bought. In 2023, there will be a shortage, and poor countries in particular, for example in Africa, will no longer be able to afford basic foodstuffs. This is a risk of famine.
Right. It's not a risk. It's going to happen. There are going to be famines because Russia chose to attack Ukraine, not because we reacted to it. They didn't have to do this. As a matter of fact, the world had such a reliance on fertilizer from Russia, that could have been their leverage point against NATO alone. So this had nothing to do with NATO. Putin wants the fucking land. He wants these countries. He wants Lithuania. He wants Moldova. He wants Latvia. He's got Belarus. He's got Kazakhstan, although it's slipping towards China.
Okay. All right. Maybe we should
What? Let Putin have whatever the fuck he wants?
think about the whole new global order thing a little.
They are, asshole. The old order was that assholes like Putin always had a say. The New World Order was about creating, everybody plays in the same sandbox. Except a couple of the players turned out to be fucking around, and now they're finding out. Specifically Russia and China. The idea that they're on the UN Security Council is ridiculous. It's absurd. They do not have the desire for everyone to have their own sovereignty and their ability to design their own defensive relationships. Even if they signed on to it, they don't believe it. So the idea that they're in the UN, that's the old world order now. That's the mid-world order. It needs some updating. The new update is kick them off the UN Security Council. Maybe exclude them from the United Nations because they don't seem to be interested in the idea of nations united in rule of law and liberal democracy. You think?
Differently? Maybe we should all sit down and have a chat together.
Yeah, maybe. This is weird. By the way, this asshole is constantly saying that when Biden whispers into the mic, it's creepy and he shouldn't do it. I'm just reminding you of that.
I'm just saying.
And in this clip, he can't stop fucking doing it.
Now, let me give you 2 two other things.
Unrelated to any fucking thing. And again, the world order and the shit he warned us about at the beginning of this, about the World Economic Forum, very specifically, that they're trying to figure out a way to redo how you grow food from seed to market in 8 years. They're trying to come up with a reason. One of the reasons they're trying to come up with this is because right now our current system relies on fertilizer from fucking Russia. Maybe, just maybe, an alliance of democracies getting together and going, we need to figure out a way to grow our own fucking food so we're not reliant on people who murder anyone in their society that looks at them cross-eyed. Maybe, just maybe, we should come up with a system that does not involve potash and fucking fertilizer and nitrogen from Russia. Maybe that's a good idea. Maybe that's so the next time they fuck around like this and we have to take measures to stop them from invading violently another country and leaving the citizens dead and rotting in the street, that we don't have to check ourselves a little bit for fear that we won't have enough wheat. Good fucking Lord.
In Ukraine, they can't even get the tractors out. This is plant, seeding time, field seeding time.
Yes, there's not going to be a wheat harvest. They're going to be a net importer this year.
And they can't even get the tractors out because of the drone.
No, they can get the tractors out. They've been using them to steal tanks.
Up in the air. The farmers are like, I'd rather not get blown off my tractor by a bomb.
By bomb? Is that how they speak? I mean, it's translated from Ukrainian, so he might be right. I'd rather not be blown off my tractor by bomb.
And so they're not planting the fields.
That's why they're not planting the fields right now, because they're afraid of their own drones.
It could go down as much as 20% of the usual output. That might be a problem.
Yeah, it is a problem. That's why you need a new world order. You need a situation where you don't rely on China when it comes to your factories being there, if they can't be trusted to tell you fully everything you need to know about a contagious disease, because both internally in the CCP and amongst the society, they have an issue about face, and nobody wants to give anybody bad news, and anybody that gives bad news, and especially in terms of the CCP, might end up dead. So you can't trust those folks when you're trying to operate in normal business. You want to be able to fly over there, see how the factory's doing, make sure no workers are jumping out of fucking windows, and arranging for products to come and go and designing and all that kind of stuff that you would do, and then fly the fuck home without bringing a contagious disease. You can't trust that now. Therefore, we're all moving back. We're reshoring factories. We're changing our supply lines. That's what you would do. That's the smart plan. And they trusted it too much. The same thing is true with Russia's involvement in oil and gas in Europe and wheat production, fertilizer. That's now not a part of the world order anymore. You can't trust that will happen. You cannot trust Russia, so you gotta figure out another system for it. And that takes strategizing with like-minded countries for the safety of everyone involved. I don't know, but this is just adult shit. How did adult shit become a mass conspiracy? Right? Does anybody know? I guess it's because the autocrats and the dictators and the assholes like them have been seeding social media and YouTube and all these other places, and Tucker Carlson with conspiracy thought about what if we all get together? The CIA must be working with the World Bank and the WEF, and they're controlling everything so that they can put a chip in you, and all that bullshit has been enough to make everybody be put off by the idea of, like, I don't know, if trade deals sound terrible to me. Meanwhile, what the fuck are they doing? Sterilizing people to get rid of them, having enormous rape camps, taking over Tibet. Our own artists eventually stopped wearing free Tibet shit so their stuff would sell in China. They fucking in Top Gun, They removed he had a Taiwan patch in Top Gun on his jacket, and they, in the international DVD, they replaced it. How about fuck that? That would be the line.
They can't get the fertilizers. They can't get the fertilizer in China. In fact, China is only going to produce about 40% of what it normally does. What it normally does. How many people think that Glenn Beck has any fucking idea that China is a net importer of food and energy? You think Glenn Beck knows that? You think Glenn Beck knows that without imports into China, lots of people die? The United States is a net exporter of food on all fronts. Have been for a long fucking time. So's Canada. So's Mexico, for that matter. China isn't. Hasn't been forever. Hasn't been since you were a kid, and people are like, you better finish your plate. Kids are starving in China. Remember that story? Remember that? Don't waste food. There are people starving. They wish they had that food. China was the reference. Do you think Glenn knows this? You think Glenn knows that the wheat yield in Russia will more negatively affect China than it will Europe? The Ukrainian wheat yield will affect Europe. But the Russian one, which is larger, will have a larger impact on China. Because they're going to need to keep it for themselves, because they're also not getting shit from all over the world. They now have to be insulated. They're not going to export it. They're not going to have enough to export. And the good news, Texas, Kansas, North Dakota, Oklahoma, New York are showing the largest decreases in overall cropland this year. They are planning on, in just those 5 states, planning on decreasing the plantings only by almost 2 million acres. So that's not going to be.
So what? That has zero impact. 2 million acres in the United States? You're kidding me, right? Especially when it involves Texas and New York State.
A problem. They are growing more soybeans, but about 40% less corn.
Right. And by the way, soybeans, that's a estrogen mocker that they think is turning everyone weak and that kind of thing. And that means if they're growing soybeans, they're growing it for China. That's what he wants you to think. Corn is American. I mean, it's sugar, and it's used for things like high fructose corn syrup, like the Sonic beverage that this asshole has on his desk every time they change the angle, you'll see.
Oh. We can have soy.
Yes, and the soybeans are for cows. We do feed livestock with them.
And that soy sauce, let me tell you something. That soy sauce never goes bad. I have soy sauce in my refrigerator,
Oh God. Really? We're going with 80s stand-up jokes now?
like right next to the butter tray. It's fantastic. I've got like a year's supply. Well, at this rate, now it'll change if we all get hungry, but at this rate, I have.
Yes. The world is going to collapse, and we're going to find Glenn Beck drinking soy packets, packets of soy sauce.
A lifetime supply of soy sauce. It never goes bad.
Are they planting enough ducks for duck sauce? Because I don't know.
I'm not.
I'm concerned about that one.
Yeah,
There's
that one,
a duck sauce
that
shortage
one
coming.
goes a lot faster.
Yeah.
That's how you're going to go out on your New World Order bit. Are they planting enough ducks for duck sauce? Just, the lazy bullshit. Can y'all hear kids in the background? No, there are kids in the background. They're on the beach. The door is open. Hold on one second. There are kids playing with a soccer ball. Hold on. I'll be right there. Give me 1 second. I'm grabbing a beverage. Hi, everybody. So, yeah. I'm having a Steez yerba mate. So, yeah, I just had to go yell, "Get off my lawn," which isn't my lawn, it's the beach. But whatever. So, I think I got time for one more video. Summer's at the pool, and I will be joining her soon. But this one's a relatively short one. I believe, so, this is kind of amazing. This kind of ties together, because the World Economic Forum kind of idea and the globalism nonsense that you've been hearing nonstop, Newsmax is on that tip too. And one of the fascinating things about the globalist idea is that America, up until Russia's invasion of Ukraine, was moving away from globalism at an enormous clip. We've been shying away from it for a long time. And quite frankly, the war on terror made us even, stiff arm it even further, because there was a mix of crowds that were against it. One was, on the right wing, there was this kind of like, we shouldn't be the policemen of the world. And on the left wing is that we don't need to be in other countries trying to create democracy at the end of a barrel of a gun. Both of those are the same take on the same circumstance, or they're different takes on the same circumstance, but it appealed to a wide swath of people. And so we started to extract ourselves. We've been doing it for a long time. And, both, I guess, Obama into Trump and then into Biden, that move has been ongoing for quite some time. And part of the reason why Russia has been making the moves it's been making, or China's been talking about things the way they have about, building military bases on islands in the Sea of Japan and in the South China Seas, and why they've been kind of dicking around with the shipping lanes going towards India and around Australia and all that kind of stuff. The reason that all happened is because the United States has been tapping back, because we haven't been being forceful in those areas again. And by us removing ourselves from the space, it's not that space just remains empty, that America was the bad guy in there, and if we hadn't been fucking around, nobody would be fucking around. The reality is that everybody fucks around in those areas. And the question becomes ultimately is, who's the better monster, in theory? Is America the better monster, or is China the better monster? Is America the better monster, or is Russia the better monster? If one monster, protects you and the other one wants to eat you, they're the monsters where the wild things are, and then there's the monsters in Godzilla or Pacific Rim, right? Still monsters, I guess. Kind of different. Anyways, you're watching HAL Sparks Mega Worldwide. Give a thumbs up, like, and subscribe to the show. Support the show in any way you can. Patreon.com/HAL Sparks. If you're a Patreon member, when I do live shows, I post them there when they allow me to tape them, so you get to watch a free comedy show for that. And if I'm ever in your town, you get to come to a show and bring a guest for free, and that's kind of cool. And only do it if you want to support the show. That's all. That's all I ask. For no other reason. Just if you want to help out, help out. Same thing with Super Chats on YouTube, points on Twitch, and of course subscribe there. Please don't forget to subscribe at twitch.tv/HalSparks. And then of course if you're on Facebook, you can use stars to support the show. Just fire away. Just throw some stars at me. Some stars, put in some stripes if you feel like it at the same time. All right, now, commercial over. So, the title of this one is fucked up. Now, Newsmax is gross, and Stankfield's always been a problem. And they're, of course, putting this whole, globalist takeover. There's, Klaus von Wolfgang Landfusted from the World Economic Forum with a rotting, he's got a halo of scorched earth around him. Globalist takeover. WHO treaty, a direct threat to sovereign nations. Yikes. The WHO is gonna tear it, but keep in mind, read that one, and now look at the title of this fucking video. Hold on. Biden floods America with diseased immigrants, breaks our borders. And I believe the guest on this is Michael Savage. Is he coming on
Man
this?
who has been sounding the alarm over the globalist attempted hijacking of the world is, of course, the host of the Michael Savage Show podcast, our good friend, Dr. Michael Savage.
I don't know what he's a doctor of, but I would like to tell you a little bit about the man you're about to watch. Michael Savage will shock no one. That's not his real name. His real name is Michael Weiner. His real name is Michael Weiner. Let me repeat that again. All right. So Michael Weiner changed his name to Michael Savage. And I have to say that if my last name was Weiner, I might do something similar. I'm just saying that if my name was Michael Weiner, I might make some alterations. And Savage would definitely cross my mind as a potentially useful replacement, let's just say. The only difference between me and Michael Weiner is that I would use the word savage to replace the name Michael. And I would tour around as Savage Weiner. You're welcome. By the way, if there's a person who looks less savage than this dude, I don't know who they are. He looks like an extra on Mary Tyler Moore.
Dr. Savage, welcome.
I admire what you've just done in such a few minutes. It's so...
Oh, thanks for posting a clip where he and you both reference something that we as the viewer haven't seen. Now I'm supposed to go watch that other fucking clip too? Forget about it. I didn't cut this clip. You did.
complicated what you said, Grant. I would need at least an hour to expand on it. I'm going to try and do this in bullet points. The fact is, medical tyranny has been used from villages to nations and now to United Nations to control populations. I've studied this for years.
Yes, he studied medical tyranny for years. Many a time he's found himself on the receiving end of things that, quite frankly, normal men could not possibly hope to understand. Hold on one second. I have to make sure that... Let's go. Opening something up, beg your pardon. Loop back audio. Did this go in here? Hold on. There we go. Hopefully that worked. Okay, nope. Hold on.
Moon River.
There we go. Now it works. That was my concern. That we have some respect for what he's gone through in his life.
Drop your shorts and bend over, Mr. Babar.
Medical tyranny is nothing to laugh about.
You using the whole fist, Doc?
So,
Thank you, Doc. You ever serve time?
all right. So, medical tyranny.
30 years ago, I tried to publish a book called Immigrants and Epidemics.
30 years ago, I tried to publish a book called Immigrants and Epidemics. I don't know why it didn't take off. My goodness. With a title like that, how does it not rocket to the top of the New York Times bestseller list? Disgusting Mexicans, Part 2. Good fucking guy.
Already been a best-selling author. My publisher said, I love the book. We can't publish it because it offends immigrants. Now,
No, because it's a bigoted piece of shit.
fast forward to now. The UN is headed by a group of do-nothings. The UN should be dismantled. I've said so. You've said so. Has the UN stopped the war between Ukraine and Russia? No.
Well, they aren't responsible for stopping wars. What the fuck does that mean? How do they do that? Have they stopped the war?
Will the World Health Organization stop the next pandemic? Absolutely not. In fact, it's probably going to spread the next pandemic.
Sure. Well, yeah, I'll just take that as at face value.
Who is the head of WHO? This guy Tedros with that weird face.
Okay, the black dude. Uh-huh.
He is a hard...
With his what? He's got a weird face, does he? What's weird about his face?
Maoist from Ethiopia. He came from the far left Tigrayan People's Liberation Army in Ethiopia, Grant. Communist Ethiopian Political Party Tigrayan People's Liberation Front.
Uh-huh.
He is now running the WHO. Now let's jump to America.
Yeah. That's the guy with the weird face. That's what he's saying. This guy. By the way, just for the record, this guy right here, and this guy, by agreeing with him, think that this guy has a weird face. So,
we have a man in charge of DHS, Mayorkas, who in just a week will destroy what Donald Trump did to protect America. He will destroy it. We're going to be flooded with 500,000 to 1 million new illegal immigrants pouring over our borders. How many of them, Grant?
Oh, that's the Remain in Mexico policy in terms of the rules about COVID.
Will be infected with COVID. No tests.
Yeah, they do test them. Again, I don't know what this idea is. Like, they're supposed to test them before they cross the border illegally. They come into the country and they're not even tested until they're apprehended and tested. Nobody even thinks for a second that people didn't get in illegally while Trump was president and slip right by Customs and Border Patrol, go out into the country, live with someone, move in someplace, any of that shit. That nobody believes for a second that didn't happen at all. At what point it's like saying, none of the murderers we catch were caught while they were planning the murder.
Tuberculosis, no tests.
Yes, we're not testing them for tuberculosis.
Plague, no test.
Plague, yes. Why aren't we testing people for plague at LaGuardia?
Pouring into America. How does Mayorkas get away with this, Grant? Enemies.
But that was always true, though. We weren't testing for any of this shit before COVID. How did Trump get away with it up till 2020, till March of 2020?
In the past could not have gotten away with this. Now, let me jump cut.
No, but they did. Nobody got away with anything. It's a standard that didn't exist.
To another image.
Yeah. How many of them are coming in with testicular cancer? At what point, when they come in, are we not checking them
River
for everything?
You using the whole fist, Doc?
I mean, welcome to America.
Drop your shorts and bend over, Mr. Babar.
No, that's a Babar. B-A-B-A-R. That's two. Yeah, but not right next to each other. I thought that's what you meant. Sorry. Whoops. Hold on.
Jump for one last point. As again, this is a subject that's near and dear to my heart. I'm going to take the listeners of your great show back to the 14th century.
Jesus Christ. Way to be up on it. Oh, you mean before vaccines?
The Mongols.
The Mongols. Oh, we're going to the Chinese built a wall, aren't we?
World plague infected cadavers into the besieged.
Cadavers? Ew. Ew. That's much nicer than a cadaver. Cadavers. Pardon me. Pardon me, mate. I'll be in the drawing room playing the grand piano. Oh, cadavers.
Crimean city of Kaffa, which started the Black Death throughout Europe. You say, what the hell does that have to do with what he's talking about? Well, Mallorca...
Yes, I was thinking exactly that.
...is not throwing plague-infected cadavers into America.
Yeah, that's true.
He's bringing COVID and TB-infected immigrants into America.
Well, no, he isn't. The idea is that some people will cross in and they will have TB or COVID. And one of the best ways that you deal with that is, and this is true, by the way, of any plane that lands. So according to this logic, according to Mickey Weiner here, I guess in theory, the FAA, Delta Airlines, is doing the same thing the Mongols did to Crimea.
How different is that than the Mongols hurling plague-infected cadavers over the city walls?
Well, it's I don't know. You'll have to ask Delta, sir. This is a Wendy's.
These people are crazy.
Well,
Yeah. Yes, a 14th century analogy in the modern times. I don't know why we weren't... How come we weren't testing everyone for TB who's thinking about sneaking into America? And
These are ideologues who hate America.
They're ideologues. I beg your pardon, they're a what?
People are crazy.
well,
Okay.
These are ideologues.
Ideologues. Any relation to Idi Amin or Stephen Edie? No?
Hate America, or they're totally...
Rip Abe Pagoda. Okay, this is the worst Abe Pagoda impersonator I have ever seen, for the record.
insane, or both. And I will stop right here.
Well, yeah, stop right there, because you've said so little and yet used so many words to do it.
Remember, China built the Great Wall of China to keep
Yeah, just so they had naming rights.
the Mongol immigrants. And now we have Majorca.
Well, not immigrants. They weren't immigrating. They were soldiers. They were warlords. They were physically... It wasn't just to stop... They weren't coming there for jobs. These were not economic migrants from Mongolia.
And Biden taking our border apart, letting infected immigrants run over.
Well, I blame Trump's wall, because obviously, if he'd have built a big flat wall, it'd be one thing, but he built a slat fence and they could just walk up and cough disease right into the country. Why didn't Trump think of this?
America like cock.
They're going to come up there, they're going to put their face right in between the bars. Of course, it'll be hot, so their faces will burn, and of course, there's going to be flaking flesh full of obviously zombie diseases coming off as well. And then they're going to be like, I can't get my face out, and they're going to be coughing tuberculosis into America. Into America? I'm fed up with you, man. I'm fed up.
Roaches.
Like what? Wait a minute. Like what?
Immigrants run over America like cockroaches.
Oh, they're like cockroaches. There you go. Holy shit. Newsmax. Making the headlines. Immigrants are like cockroaches. And I'm shocked. And you're saying 30 years ago you couldn't get a book like this published? Was it They're Like Cockroaches? Was that chapter 4? Fuck you. What? Look, Stank can't even... He knows it's fucked to nod at this. Watch him try to... Like, he's so used to nodding with whoever the fuck's there that he's like, oh, shit, I can't... Don't nod. Whatever you do, don't nod. You want to nod, don't nod.
Run over America like cockroaches.
Dr. Savage, I'm glad you brought up the connection to immigration.
Yes, the connection to immigration. He brought up the connection to immigration by saying they're running over America like cockroaches. That's how you bring it up.
Because it is about open borders. I mean, look, George Soros has an open border society. He wants the entire world to be open.
It's not called the Open Border Society. It's called the Open Society. It's about societies being open. Not open to other societies, but open within themselves. Oh, God.
Borders. And then...
I don't know a lot about the Open Society. You'll forgive me. I am, unlike people think, I am not getting a check from them. I feel very disappointed. The CIA isn't sending me any money at all. And I have not gotten my cut of Hunter Biden's paintings strictly for calling out the fact that there is no Hunter Biden laptop. I am doing that gratis, simply as a public service.
about big government ruling everyone. Let me play a clip from you from the UN.
Well, apparently it's not. It's not about big government ruling everyone. Apparently, the illegal immigrants aren't being ruled by big government. They're being allowed to run around like cockroaches, according to your guest. I guess big government is so big that it can't even see things that are so small. It's kind of like it's like the Death Star. You know, a couple of X-Wings are able to get in there and cough tuberculosis right down a ventilator shaft.
Secretary General, which really spells up a lot of what they're actually after here. Roll this.
At this perilous moment, we need to build trust through dialogue and diplomacy.
Ugh. Trust, dialogue, and diplomacy? This is fucking gross.
Inclusion, equality, and the focus on fighting humanity's common enemies, COVID-19, poverty, and unrelenting climate crisis.
Right. You have to know, folks, that apparently Stankfield and Sergeant Wiener over here need you I expect you, I suppose, to clutch your pearls when you hear something like that.
Inclusion, equity, and they throw in COVID-19, the China virus. Dr. Savage, the last word.
Yeah. They didn't even mention cockroaches.
I don't have a last word. I have to write a last book to cover this subject, Grant.
Dude, then practice. You don't have the gift of brevity? You don't have something pithy like they're running over us like cockroaches? You have to write a last book. Who do you think you are, Mark Levin?
Doing a job that's Herculean in its task. Summary is this. Who is being led by a plant put in there by China? Never forget Tedros was put in there by China. Tedros comes from Communist Ethiopian Party.
Yeah, you said that part already.
In America, we have Mayorkas, who came from Cuba, who has torn our border apart and is now...
Okay. So he came from Cuba to destroy America. The Cold War never ended. Don't you understand? You expect me to talk? No, I expect you to die, Mr. Bond. Come back here, Wiener. I'll give you what for.
Next week, going to flood America with illegal immigrants, many of whom are infected with COVID.
Yes, tuberculosis, COVID, or whatever. And apparently there's this new disease that makes you repeat yourself even when given a chance to say something fresh and new.
And tuberculosis,
Did he mention tuberculosis? Because after all, a man who dresses like it's 1937 probably is more concerned about the White Plague than anything.
Nightmare, and I don't know where the Republicans are. We're worried about two morons slapping each other at the Oscars. That's America's biggest problem.
Well, no, I mean, obviously, other shit is going on. It didn't grind the whole fucking country to halt. It wasn't the fucking OJ trial.
Slapping each other, that took over the news now for 3 days. All the liberals forgot the war in Ukraine. That was their big issue.
No, we didn't. You know I know. I see. I know what the problem is. Sorry, folks. See, the problem is apparently Captain Wiener and Stankfield can only hold one thought in their brain pan at a time. And so they're projecting that outward onto you, and they can't imagine whatever they see in front of them. It's just squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. That's welcome to Captain Wiener's brain.
Well, of course, now you're on another...
Well, of course. Well, of course.
It's near to my heart. Sadly, there are more people that are interested in watching TMZ than watching programs like this or listening to your radio program. That's the problem.
Yeah, the problem is you guys don't have any ratings. It's terrible. Hey, I feel you, man. You know, I only started this, this live stream about 18 months ago, something like that, and I'm up against people who've been on for years or have an entire industry behind them, podcasting networks feeding them cash, big movie money where they could purchase their own viewers and make it look like they have more subscribers. And I hear you, Stank. And I understand that even when I'm doing my show from a hotel I still have better production value than you do. And that's gotta suck. I mean, you, Wiener, apparently in front of, I guess, a piece of furniture that was built into the wall of the apartment he moved into because the person who was living there was killed and nobody wanted to live in the murder apartment. So he just put his chair and his desk right over the stain and went right on making radio. But it is sad that people are more interested in people shit than in what you think is important. I know it's terrible.
Right now is we don't have enough engaged people. Dr. Savage, as always, I appreciate you laying it all out for us.
Laying it all out there for us. By all of it, we mean the same two fucking things over and over again. This was titled Biden Floods America with Diseased Immigrants, Breaks Our Borders. I don't know why it wasn't called fucking cockroach. I don't know. Do you have any idea? You guys know why? Why you didn't just call it fucking cockroaches? I'm mildly shocked at the disgusting level. But Stankfield usually has to dance around this stuff. The people at Newsmax, even Greg Kelly, have to tap dance around this kind of shit. Apparently it's not working, so they had to bring on Michael Savage to just say it out loud. Because this is what they all think. This is exactly who they are. Well, thanks for being with me today, by the way, guys. Today's show zipped by, and it was long. I mean, I know I started a little late, but I appreciate you being here. It's HAL Sparks Mega Worldwide. Like, subscribe, share the show, tweet out some of the clips when we post them, that kind of stuff. Whatever you want to do to help the show, I greatly appreciate it. Live shows coming up. News to follow. The 27th, I believe it is, at the Viper Room. ACK, the Ace Frehley tribute band, and Nerd Halen will be performing together. I will also be getting up at the end of the night for the jam to do I Stole Your Love, Kiss song, with a mix of musicians, which should be a good time. And then on the 14th at the Whiskey, I will be doing a couple of songs that night for the next jam night. Also, let's see. And then in May, I've got some. I will be at the Laugh Factory in San Diego. That'll be a good time. Posting those dates soon. That just got booked. And then we're adding dates all the time. So I will see you. Honestly, I'll see you tomorrow for the regular morning show. And the afternoon show should be fine, even though I'm on vacation. You're welcome. And take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. And I will see you guys soon. Oh, and I've got to turn on my my music on my way out the door because this stuff the show doesn't quite run like the other one. But you guys understand. Anyways, take care, and I will see you soon. Bye.